ever notice how like some really important lessons you learn come from people who weren't in your life that long?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like this quick burst of insight
Uh-huh.
that just stays with you even after the person's gone.
Right.
That's kind of what we're going to be looking at in this deep dive today. We're going to be looking at a podcast episode called Temporary People Give Permanent Lessons.
Okay.
And we're going to be talking about how can we like recognize these encounters and then what can we take away from them?
I love that. It's something we've all experienced. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely.
whether it's a teacher or a coworker or just someone you met on the train,
Yeah.
like those temporary connections can really leave a lasting mark on you.
Totally. And the source really challenges the idea that temporary, like, automatically equals insignificant.
Right.
It made me think about all those times when a fresh perspective from someone outside my normal circle just helped me see things differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. That's a great point. It's like they hold up a mirror to you and it reflects back a truth that maybe you couldn't see on your own, you know?
Yeah.
And because they're not like deeply embedded in your life, they're not afraid to point out
Yeah.
the things that maybe your close friends would shy away from.
Right, right. Because
Yeah.
they don't have to deal with the consequences.
Exactly.
It's like they can just drop the truth bomb and walk away.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the lesson itself, but the source of the lesson.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. The source also talks about how knowing a relationship is going to end actually makes the lessons hit harder.
Uh-huh.
Doesn't that tie into some interesting psychology?
Totally.
Uh.
One concept is scarcity.
Yeah.
So, like, we naturally value things that are limited, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So, knowing that someone won't be around forever
Okay.
makes us pay more attention to what they have to say.
Yeah.
But it's not just that. There's also this element of, like, present moment awareness.
Oh, interesting.
When you know that time is limited,
Okay.
you're more likely to, like, really savor the experience and listen to what they're sharing and absorb the lessons more deeply.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. So you're more present because you know it's limited.
Yeah.
But I guess it depends on the relationship a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't a brief but intense romance, just throwing it out there, feel more scarce than just like talking to the same cashier at the grocery store every week, even if both are technically temporary?
Yeah. That's a fascinating question. And you're right. The intensity of the connection definitely plays a role.
Yeah.
But even those like seemingly mundane, repeated encounters, those can have an impact, you know? Think about it, that cashier who always brightens your day.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just modeling an attitude of kindness and positivity that you unconsciously absorb.
Right.
And those small, consistent interactions can shape our outlook over time.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's not always the big moments. Actually, speaking of big moments, there's this great story in the source that really shows this whole impermanence and present moment awareness thing. It's about the host's colleague and some advice about climbing a mountain.
Oh, yeah. The appreciate the view story. That's a good one.
Yeah. It's like the host was talking about feeling burned out,
Right.
just always working toward the next goal, not enjoying the process. And this colleague who was only there for a short time
Right.
just said, hey, remember to appreciate the view while you're climbing that mountain.
It sounds so simple,
Yeah.
but it's actually like really profound if you think about it.
It's so profound.
It's like, we get so focused on the destination that we forget to enjoy the journey, the little wins, the challenges. It's about being present in each step rather than constantly looking ahead.
Yeah. I feel like I'm always doing that, always
Yeah.
looking ahead. So how do we actually put this into practice?
Well, I think it starts with just being aware of it.
Okay.
Like recognizing those moments when you're so focused on that goal that you're missing out on what's happening right now. It's like taking a step back and saying, okay, what am I experiencing in this moment? What can I appreciate about this?
Yeah.
Even if it's hard,
Yeah.
It's not ignoring the difficulties or pretending everything's perfect.
Right.
It's about finding those little bits of joy and gratitude,
Okay.
even in the chaos.
I like that. Finding the sparks in the chaos. It's a way more attainable than trying to force this constant happiness,
Yeah, for sure.
And sometimes those sparks come from unexpected places.
Right,
Right?
absolutely.
Like it's not always our closest friends who teach us the big lessons.
Right. And you know what? The source actually talks about this. It's this idea of unlikely teachers.
Okay. Yeah.
So they can teach us not just through their words, but also through their actions.
Oh, that's right. There's that example about the entrepreneur
Yes.
who looked at failure in like a totally different way, right?
Right. Exactly. The host met this entrepreneur briefly at a party. And what struck them was not how successful he was, but how he viewed failure.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Like, it wasn't a setback for him, it was a stepping stone. It was just a necessary part of learning.
He was modeling a different approach to risk and resilience just by how he talked about his experiences.
Totally. And that's what we call observational learning.
Yeah.
We're constantly picking up on stuff from the people around us, even when we don't know it.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's their actions, their attitudes, how they handle challenges. It all seeps into our subconscious
Wow.
and shapes how we see the world.
So you're saying like even bumping into that entrepreneur for a little bit
Yeah,
can have a ripple effect on how we deal with setbacks.
totally, totally. And it just highlights how important it is to be open to learning from anyone,
Yeah.
no matter their background or how long they're in our lives.
Okay. So that brings us to another important thing from the source. Being receptive to the lessons these temporary people offer. Because it's one thing to just, run into someone,
Yeah.
but it's a whole other thing to actually like take in what they're trying to tell you. How do we not just let these opportunities pass us by?
Well, I think it starts with being present,
Mm.
engaged in the interaction.
Mm-hmm.
We often just go through our days on autopilot,
Totally.
not really tuning in to the people around us,
Uh-huh.
especially people we see as temporary.
Right.
But what if we went into every conversation
Yeah.
with curiosity and openness?
So instead of just going through the motions, we're actually looking for those little pieces of wisdom, you
Yeah,
know?
exactly. It's about being an active listener, really paying attention, asking questions if you need to,
Okay.
and just thinking about what resonates with you.
So simple, but
It's a simple shift, but it makes a big difference.
okay, that makes sense. But are there any specific things we can do to make those lessons stick with us even after, the conversation's over?
That's a great question, and that's what we're going to dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Stay tuned.
All right. So we've been talking about being open to these temporary teachers
Right.
and like really listening to what they have to say.
Right.
But how do we make sure those lessons like actually sink in and become part of who we are?
Well, that's where the real work begins.
Mm.
It's not enough to just hear it,
Mm.
right? We have to internalize it.
Yeah.
We got to find ways to make it part of our lives.
Right. Okay.
And I think one powerful practice for doing that is reflection.
So like taking some time to really think about what stood out to us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it could be as simple as like at the end of the day, just taking a few minutes to think about the people you ran into and conversations that maybe sparked something in you. What did you learn? What resonated? Was there a piece of advice or like a perspective that really made you think differently?
I like that. I can see how that would help. But isn't it easy to just like forget about it as you're going through your day?
Right.
Like how do you make it stick?
Well, writing can be really helpful for that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, don't underestimate like just grabbing a pen and paper or,
Yeah.
typing it out, just jotting down your reflections, even if it's just like a couple bullet points.
Yeah.
It helps you remember and it makes those thoughts more real.
Okay. So you're basically building your own little library of wisdom.
Exactly. Filled with all those little insights you get.
That's awesome.
And the great thing about a library is you can always go back and revisit it.
Right. Whenever you need that little reminder or a fresh perspective.
Exactly. It's always there waiting for you.
So reflection and writing are good for taking it all in, but how do we actually use it? How do we put these lessons into practice?
Right. So it's not just like a theory in your head, but actually changes how you live. That's where action comes in.
Okay.
So you take those insights and you find ways to use them in real life. Did the lesson make you want to change a habit? Maybe try a different way to deal with a problem. Reach out to someone you've been meaning to talk to.
It's like bridging that gap between knowing something and actually doing it.
Right. Exactly. And it doesn't have to be this huge, massive change. Sometimes it's the little consistent things that make the biggest difference over time.
Okay. So we've got reflection, writing, and action. Anything else we can do to make those temporary lessons stick?
Another powerful technique is sharing those lessons with other people.
Oh, interesting.
Tell the story. Talk about what you learned and how it affected you.
I see what you mean. By telling the story, you're not only reminding yourself, but you could be helping someone else.
Exactly. You're paying it forward. And sometimes explaining it to someone else actually helps you understand it better.
Oh, yeah.
You have to figure out the main points, and that solidifies your own understanding.
Like teaching is the best way to learn.
Totally.
Hmm.
And don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable when you share these stories.
Yeah.
By opening up about what we've learned, we make it okay for others to do the same. It creates this feeling of growth and connection.
That's a cool thought. And it all comes back to how we're all connected, right? Like always learning from each other.
Exactly. We're part of this web of human experience,
Hmm.
and those temporary moments are like the threads that connect us all.
I like that. While we've been talking, I've been thinking about those times when I've been the temporary person for someone else.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what impact you might have had, without even realizing it.
That's such a good point. We're not just students, we're teachers too.
Yeah.
Every interaction, even a quick one, can leave a mark.
So we should be more mindful of like the energy we bring to those interactions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like go into them with intention, knowing you might leave a lasting impression.
And sometimes those small gestures, those little moments of connection,
Yeah.
those can be the most impactful.
Yeah.
Like ripples spreading out from a pebble.
I love that.
You never know how far those ripples will go.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really emphasizes how powerful intention can be.
Wow.
Even as a temporary person, you can be that positive force. You could be a source of light, a reminder of hope, a spark of inspiration.
And another thing that really struck me from the source was the idea that every encounter has a purpose, even if we don't get it right away.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes we meet people who challenge us,
Right.
push our buttons, make us face things about ourselves that we don't like.
Oh, yeah.
And those can be tough, but those are the ones that often lead to the most growth.
Absolutely. Those are the lessons that really shake things up, make us question everything,
Yeah.
and that helps us become more resilient and adaptable in the end.
But how do we change our thinking to see those tough encounters as like opportunities instead of burdens?
Well, I think it starts with curiosity. Instead of getting defensive or angry right away, take a second and ask yourself, like, what is this person trying to teach me? What can I learn from this?
Yeah.
You're basically changing the story in your head from, like, this person is making my life harder
Right.
to this person is giving me a chance to grow.
So instead of focusing on how much it sucks, you're looking for the lesson hidden inside.
Exactly. And, sometimes the lesson might just be about setting boundaries or walking away from situations that aren't good for you.
Right. Right. Okay.
It's not about putting up with bad behavior. It's about realizing that even the negative stuff can teach us something valuable if we're open to it.
It's like those difficult people, they're the teachers that really make you work for it.
Yes, they push us to evolve in ways we wouldn't have chosen for ourselves.
And sometimes the lesson isn't even for us, right?
Good point.
It's for the other person.
Right.
Maybe our role is just to be there for them,
Exactly. We don't always have to be the student. We can be the teacher too, even when we don't realize it.
Like that saying, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about.
Yeah.
It reminds us to be kind because everyone's on their own journey.
And those journeys cross paths in these amazing ways,
Yeah.
creating temporary connections
Yeah.
that can really change our lives. It just shows how interconnected we all are, and that even those small interactions can make a big difference.
So, wrapping up this part of our deep dive, I think the main takeaway is this.
Yeah.
Every encounter, good or bad, easy or hard, can teach us something. It's all about being open to it, thinking about it, and finding ways to make those lessons part of our lives. Makes you think about all the people,
Yeah.
who have touched our lives, even for a little bit,
Uh-huh.
and how they've changed us. I bet our listeners are picturing some of those folks right now.
It's wild, right?
Yeah.
How, like, a quick chat
Yeah.
or even just like a moment you share with someone
Mm-hmm.
can really stick with you. It makes you wonder, who are the temporary people in our lives right now?
Yeah.
The ones shaping us without us even knowing.
Right, like that cashier who always cheers you up.
Exactly.
Or a coworker who gives you a good tip.
Mm-hmm.
Or even someone you randomly talk to on the bus. Maybe they have a piece of the answer we've been looking for.
Totally. And it doesn't have to be like some earth-shattering lesson,
Oh, right.
Sometimes it's just a little shift in how you see things.
Yeah.
A new way to look at something.
Uh-huh.
Or remembering something you knew but forgot.
Those little nudges can be just as important as the big aha moments.
For sure. Like stepping stones on your path.
Totally. And all those stepping stones, all those little encounters,
Yeah.
they make our journey richer, more interesting.
Absolutely.
So, circling back to the title, Temporary People, Permanent Lessons. It's not that the people are always there,
Yeah.
but the stuff they teach us can last way after they're gone.
Right. It's about taking those lessons
Yeah.
and making them part of who you are.
Uh-huh.
Letting them guide what you do, what you think, how you interact with everyone.
It's a cool reminder that learning never stops, and it can happen anywhere.
Exactly.
And teachers come in all forms, often when you least expect it.
Totally. So as we wrap up, here's a question to think about.
Okay.
Who is a temporary person in your life right now who might be teaching you something important?
Ooh, good one.
What is that lesson? And how can you use it to make things better?
That's something for everyone to chew on.
Yeah, definitely.
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your stories with us on social media.
Uh-huh.
Keep your eyes peeled for those temporary teachers out there, folks.
Yes.
Embrace what they teach you and keep exploring the world around you. We'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.